Welcome back to Archives and Special Collections 25 for 25 exhibition series. This fall marks the 75th anniversary of the conclusion of the precedent-setting International Military Tribunal in Nuremberg, in which the major Nazi war criminals heard the judges' verdicts on the charges against them. After the end of World War II, the question arose of how to punish the individuals responsible. Although there were calls for immediate execution, Henry Stimson, the U.S. Secretary of War, believed that this would violate everything that the American legal system stood for, including the right to a trial. Army Colonel Murray Burney was asked to find a solution, and he proposed an international court that would hold the individuals responsible for those actions that the entire world would define as crimes. On August 8, 1945, the Charter of the International Military Tribunal declared that aggressive war was an international crime. The International Military Tribunal was established in Nuremberg, Germany, to try the remaining major German leaders for their actions both before and during World War II. Nuremberg was selected as it was the city where Hitler had proclaimed his racial laws in 1935. Judges from the United States, Great Britain, France, and the Soviet Union, as well as 4 alternates, were assigned the jurisdiction to try high-ranking Nazis deemed personally responsible for the specific charges. This would be the first time that an international court would hold the individual leaders of a nation responsible for its treatment of both its own citizens and citizens of other countries during wartime. Thomas Joseph Dodd, born in Norwich, Connecticut in 1907, had already established himself as an attorney when he was asked by U.S. Supreme Court Justice Robert Jackson to join the team that Jackson was assembling to represent the United States in Nuremberg, Germany. He accepted the challenge, but, as he wrote home to his wife in August of 1945, there were more than legal challenges.
Grace, my dearest one, here I am in the dead city of Nuremberg. I saw for the first time in my life the awful ruin that comes with war. The odor is sickening. The refugees, where do they come from? How do they eat? Where do they sleep? If it were not for the real belief in the need for the doing of this job, I would not stay another day. We will see this job through.
In his opening statement, Justice Robert Jackson stated, quote, "The wrongs which we seek to condemn and punish have been so calculated, so malignant, and so devastating that civilization cannot tolerate their being ignored because it cannot survive their being repeated." End quote. The specific charges that were brought against 23 individuals included crimes against peace, war crimes, and crimes against humanity. The judges at Nuremberg came to believe that only through the principle of individual responsibility could justice be served. In addition, the justices ruled that all individuals were innocent until proven guilty. This was a difficult position for the judges to have taken, considering the mood of the times, but it was extremely important to reject the concept of collective guilt that the Nazis had ordered on groups such as Jews and homosexuals. As described in an online article posted by the National World War II Museum, quote, "Although the charges brought against the German defendants at Nuremberg largely derived from pre-war international treaties, the tribunal was controversial, even in Allied countries. Several prominent figures in the Allied governments, including British Prime Minister Winston Churchill, initially favored a much more extreme course of action and advocated for the summary execution of German war criminals. The governments of the Soviet Union, Great Britain, France, and the United States, however, eventually agreed upon a jointly run tribunal with judges and prosecutors drawn from each of these countries. In order to combat the accusation that the tribunal was merely a victor's justice, the Allies went to great lengths to provide the defendants with counsel of their choosing, as well as secretarial, stenographic, and translation services. When it came to some of the more questionable legal issues, such as the ambiguous charge of conspiracy, the Allies ensured that none of the defendants were convicted on this charge alone. Even so, some Germans accused the Allies of conducting an unfair trial with a predetermined outcome. Several of the tribunal's detractors rightly criticized the Soviet participants' efforts to attribute Soviet atrocities, such as the massacre of Polish officers and intelligentsia at Katyn, to German troops. Other critics of the IMT noted that Nazi defenders could not appeal their convictions. Despite these condemnations, the IMT is widely considered today to have been a remarkably fair execution of justice. Moreover, it achieved several key objectives outlined by its architects." Unquote. The verdicts were read on October 1, 1946. 12 were sentenced to hang, 3 to life imprisonment, and 4 to long prison terms. The tribunal found 3 defendants not guilty. The death sentences were carried out in the old gymnasium on the grounds of the Nuremberg prison on October 16, 1946. Nazi Party Secretary Martin Bormann was tried in absentia, and therefore his death sentence could not be carried out, although a DNA test in 1998 confirmed that he had died in Berlin at the end of the war. Hermann Goering committed suicide just a few hours before the execution of his sentence. After the hangings, the bodies were transported to Munich and cremated in the crematorium of the Ostfriedhof Cemetery. The ashes were then strewn in a tributary of the Isar River. Those sentenced to imprisonment remained first in Nuremberg and were then transported on July 18, 1947, to the Allied war criminals' prison in Berlin-Spandau, where they remained until their terms were served. Allied leaders hoped that the IMT and subsequent trials of more than 1,500 Nazi war criminals would accomplish a number of ambitious goals. First and foremost, they hoped the trials would punish Germans guilty of horrific crimes. American leaders also hoped the IMT would deter future aggression by establishing a precedent for international trials. 12 subsequent trials were held in Nuremberg. The outcome of these trials led to the statement that guilt should be determined on the basis of whether or not the person had the opportunity to make a moral choice, not whether or not a superior had given an order. For many, Nuremberg brought to light, for the first time, the Night and Fog Decree, Kristallnacht, the Final Solution, and other horrific Nazi atrocities. The Cold War prevented the IMT from deterring future aggression by establishing a precedent of holding war criminals accountable in a criminal court. Not until 1993, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, did another international war crimes trial take place. Additional information about Thomas J. Dodd, the International Military Tribunal, and related topics can be found in Archives and Special Collections, located on the Storrs campus of the University of Connecticut. I hope you will please come and explore.